I'd like to call this regular city council meeting of May 13, 2013 to order. We'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call shows all are present, including department heads. Let's review the minutes of April 22nd, 2013.
I move the minutes.
Support.
Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Monthly bills. Joe?
Yeah, I had a question on page 3, check number 61006 for Encore Impressions, $385 for copies. Just curious what we're making, or copying. Please. Copying.
Joe, what check was that?
61006.
I'd have to find out, I don't know offhand.
Okay, that was it.
I saw one that the electrical inspector had charged to install 2 light switches.
Yes, I wanted 2 light switches installed, one in our room where the safe is and one where the kitchen is, just so the lights come on and off as people enter and exit.
Did we have them inspected?
Actually, we did. Yes.
Thanks.
Did you pull a permit?
Anything else? Anybody?
I move the minutes, or the bills, excuse me.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of the agenda. Any additions or deletions, Mr. Murphy?
There is one. I would ask that we add one called 1A, and that's for the Police Week proclamation, recognizing this week as the Police Week.
I'll move the agenda as amended.
Support.
Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay, public comment. We're going to start off with the Townie Award. That is a presentation from the Wallace family, for your edification. It is not a city-sanctioned award. It's something that we've done in honor of my mother, the former city clerk. And it's basically for awarded to somebody who contributes so much to the community. And I will go from that point and call that person down in a moment. A lot to pick from here. I would guess 90% of you people know this person. Really well-deserving person. It doesn't do any good to list all what this person has done because we'd be here all night. And I would like to ask for Phil Weipert to come down here.
Hey.
Pam went to yoga, apparently. She's not at yoga.
This is the Norma Jean Wallace Townie Award presented to Phil Weipert for 2013 for love of South Lyon and proven compassion and dedication to its citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. It really is an honor. It's, you know, you hear Tony Award and you say, you know, is that a compliment or, and I think it means that you're really part of the town. And I do love the town. The town's kind of adopted us. We've lived here 25 years. We try to be involved. And knew Norma a long time. Norma was part of the town, always pictured City Hall. And I really appreciate it. And thank you. Thank you very much. This is like 25 times better than the car wash sign.
You bet. Now we have the swearing in of some fire officers and Chief Mike Kennedy.
Mr. Mayor and Council, appreciate the time this evening. Before we start off with that, I ask for a brief moment of silence. Several of us attended the line of duty funeral for firefighter Brian Wilkie from the Wayne Westland Fire Department, who was killed in the line of duty last week. So I'd ask for a brief moment of silence, please. Thank you. I'd ask the fire officers to please come forward. South Lyon Fire Department's recently conducted a multi-step promotional process consisted of a written exam, oral board comprised of outside personnel, and a interview with myself. All of these members have shown outstanding commitment to the South Lyon Fire Department and are part of our leadership for both administrative and operational functions. And I have the great honor of asking the city clerk to please swear them in tonight. We have Dan Hammond, who will be promoted to the rank of Assistant Chief, Mike Weir, who will be promoted to the rank of Captain, Jeff Noschel, who is unable to be here tonight, will be promoted to the rank of Lieutenant, and Corey Armstrong and Todd Gerhardt, who will both be promoted to the rank of Sergeant.
Okay, if you raise your right hand. I state your name. Do solemnly swear to do my duty. As state your rank. I know everybody's different. For the city of South Lyon. To serve the citizens with compassion. Respect, integrity. And to uphold the laws and constitutions. Of the United States of America and the state of Michigan. To the best of my ability.
Please pin their badges. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Congratulations. Congratulations, man.
That's very nice.
Okay, at this time, anybody wishes to speak,
And that they have their family.
public comment, and we start off with,
Put a time limit on it?
well, we're talking about, I'm going to ask a question here before you, okay. I have a question regarding the nature trails. How many people are here to speak on that issue? Okay, I don't see a reason to put any time limit on it. You want to speak?
I'd like to read a letter on behalf of the Parks and
Come on up and do that then for us, Mr. McLeod.
Good evening. My name is Ed McLeod. I live at 500 Willow Drive, South Lyon, and I'm here on behalf of the South Lyon Parks and Recreation Commission just to read a statement into the record relative to the nature trails at Volunteer Park. The Parks and Recreation Commission serves as an advisory body to the city manager regarding the development of parkland, including the facilities to be placed thereon and the operation, management, and control of all indoor and outdoor parks and recreation facilities. All members of the commission are residents of the city of South Lyon and serve without compensation. Commission meetings are held at City Hall on the second Wednesday of every month. Agendas and minutes are posted on the city's website. All meetings are open to the public, and time is provided at the beginning of every meeting for citizen comments. A Parks Master Plan has been in place and is considered part of the city master plan. The plan is based on needs identified for the entire community, not one or two special interests. The city's demographic makeup, comparisons to standards, input from the Parks and Recreation Commission, and survey responses from residents were all used in creating and updating the plan. This document is updated every 5 years and is approved by the City Council. The Parks and Recreation Commission would like to address the questions and misinformation currently being publicized in newspaper articles and on Facebook pages regarding Volunteer Park. The master plan for Volunteer Park calls for it to be a full-scale tournament quality community park. The goal is to provide baseball and soccer fields, picnic areas with shelters, restroom and concession facilities, parking, and walking and biking paths. While the plan is expansive, the funding is not. Therefore, sections of the park are being developed as funds become available. The northern third of Volunteer Park was completed first. The southern section was left as it was when the land was purchased by the city. The commission decided that a walking mountain biking trail would be a good temporary use for that part of the area until the funds became available for construction of additional baseball fields. However, this area also became a dumping ground for trash and yard waste. An innovative solution came to light when Mr. Ken Hamlin offered to remove the trash and clear and level the land for future field construction in return for being allowed to farm the land on a temporary basis. Temporary is the key term to note in both of these situations. The master plan is what has been officially adopted for the development of Volunteer Park. The trails and the farming are temporary uses of the property until funding is in place for the construction of the master plan items. The Commission would like to invite Mr. Foreman and any other interested residents to attend our meetings. The Parks Master Plan can be made available for review, and any questions, concerns, or suggestions can be discussed. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, somebody wishes to speak? Again, this is on any issue that's not listed on the agenda. Please state your name and address.
Hello, my name's George Foreman, live at 869 Huntington, South Lyon, Michigan. Today, last council meeting, I came and addressed and talked about the issue of the Volunteer Park nature trails. And so I came back today, I wanted to further speak about that. I have some information that I'd like to present to the City Council, if I may give it to you.
You can, all right, start at one end and they'll pass them down.
Let's make sure the clerk gets a copy.
The clerk needs a copy.
George?
The clerk?
I'll have to get one. Hold on. Would anybody else like a copy? They're up here if you'd like them. I'll spread them out on the table. So, before I get into, I'd like to read through my one page, but before I get that, I'd just like to say, talk about two things. I'd like to talk about hard work and balance. I've lived in South Lyon since 1997, and like I mentioned last time, one of the most enjoyable things about South Lyon is the nature trails, the bike trails, the community spirit involved around parks and recreation. I've seen a lot of hard work going into the development of that. When I moved in, the bike trail that goes up to Milford was just a gravel dirt trail. People worked hard to get that bike trail to be paved and built. When I moved in, Volunteer Park wasn't purchased yet by the city. People have worked hard to make Volunteer Park a very nice place. Has nice soccer fields, baseball fields. The addition of that paved bike trail is a very nice addition to being able to ride your bike down to Volunteer Park and then also down to the library. There's been a nice balance in Volunteer Park in the last few years between the ability to do sporting events, ride your bike on the bike trail, or go for a walk in the natural areas of the park. Even the farming that has been done in the previous years was a very nice addition to see some of the rubbish that was in the southern part of the park cleared out. The development of the bike trails and walking trails that were posted, I think, with signs either from the Mountain Bike Association or from the Boy Scouts. That's a very nice addition to the park. The problem that I'm here to talk about today is the balance. As of last year, there was a very nice balance in Volunteer Park, a balance between groomed sporting fields, asphalt trails, farming, and natural areas. This spring, that balance has been disturbed, and that's what I'm here to talk about today. I won't read through the whole thing word for word, but there's some important parts that I will read word for word. I'm speaking this evening on my behalf and on behalf of other South Lyon residents who are concerned about the current conversion of Volunteer Park into farmland. Based on the destruction of much of Volunteer Park this spring, it has become apparent that decisions and authorizations regarding the use of Volunteer Park have been made without reasonable and fair notification to the residents of South Lyon. And what I mean by reasonable and fair is I know that there's meetings that happen, I know that there's agendas. People don't come to those a lot. It doesn't take a lot to put a sign up in the park saying, this is what's going to happen in the next year. In the last week, it's come to my attention, I didn't know this before I came here last week, that there was an official maintenance agreement signed with the farmer for the maintenance of Volunteer Park. Referencing the Volunteer Park maintenance agreement dated April 26, 2010, between the city of South Lyon and the farmer currently converting the natural meadows of Volunteer Park into farmland, I am concerned that the agreement's stated acreage to be used for farming of, quote, the southernmost 30 acres of Volunteer Park, end quote, has been exceeded in a negligent and careless manner. This is evidenced by the intrusion of farming activities which have expanded in 2013 all the way past the midpoint of the 130-acre Volunteer Park up to the vehicle entrance road in the northern half of the park. Even after this concern was brought to the attention of the South Lyon City Council during the City Council meeting of April 22nd, the acreage plowed in Volunteer Park has continued to increase, and active plowing has continued as recently as Saturday, May 11th. For this reason, I am now requesting that the South Lyon City Council immediately resolve to halt all agricultural usage of Volunteer Park until a time after adequate public notification and review of activities and planned development of Volunteer Park is undertaken. I'm not saying it can never happen. I'm just saying give us a fair chance to talk about it. The city has the right to halt farming as specified in the Volunteer Park Maintenance Agreement, which is attached to the documentation that I've given you, which states, this agreement may be terminated upon 30 days written notice by either party without compensation to the other. There's a little more verbiage, and then it says, though, that the farmer still has the chance to harvest any crops that have already been planted. I lived in Ypsilanti before I came to South Lyon. Ypsilanti had a depot market, farmer's market. The city council in Ypsilanti decided to shut down the farmer's market. I went to the Ypsilanti city council meeting with a group of the Friends of the Farmer's Market to support the stay open of that depot town farmer's market. I am not against farming. I'm not against farmers markets. What I'm against is the balance that's been disrupted in our community for this. South Lyon is a special place. It's a small town that's surrounded by a lot of nice natural areas. As I drive to work every day, I see the natural areas being encroached upon. 50 years from now, somebody's going to say, isn't it nice that people saved the southwestmost corner of Oakland County and made it into something special, instead of something that you can already drive past on 8 Mile Road all the way through Livonia. As a guideline for the development of Volunteer Park, maintenance and restoration of the Volunteer Park nature trails, and public notification and review related to changes in Volunteer Park, I request that the City Council of South Lyon review, modify, and approve the following proposed resolution addressing the following 3 key points. The 3 key points are recognition that the trails exist, maintenance of those trails, and future public notification of any changes that will be happening to Volunteer Park. The Volunteer Park nature, step number 1, recognition of the trails. The Volunteer Park nature trails are recognized as an officially maintained part of Volunteer Park by the City of South Lyon and the South Lyon Parks and Recreation Department. The proposal would request that the official map and master plan of Volunteer Park that includes baseball diamonds, soccer fields, parking lots, and asphalt bike trail also include the Volunteer Park nature trails listing their location. Natural grass description of the trails, the distance of the trails, and the acreage of surrounding natural lands to the trails. I appreciate the work that the Parks and Rec has done to already make a master plan. Let's keep a master plan. I don't think the master plan has to be written in stone. I think that the master plan can be reviewed and issues can be discussed about it. Maintenance of the Volunteer Park nature trails, step number 2 of the proposal. The Volunteer Park nature trails will be maintained by the City of South Lyon so that a continuous natural grass trail of at least 1 mile exists within the park boundaries. When we came here last time to discuss the trails, people said, well, the trails still exist. They do, but they're cut off in segments that cannot be reached now unless you go through agricultural areas. For example, a continuous path could exist, which is the path that on Saturday we marked out with marking sticks as a group of people walked on the trail. A path could exist basically from the asphalt bike trail down by 8 Mile to the entrance that exists currently for the Volunteer Park nature trails. Now, this is an important issue that needs to be discussed no matter what. The next one. Volunteer Park nature trails' rite of passage through any farmed areas within Volunteer Park will be restored posted, and markers maintained. Any volunteer park land where citizens of South Lyon are not allowed passage will be clearly marked with signs. In the conversations that I have had with people that use Volunteer Park on a daily or weekly basis, I've had several stories told to me about how people were harassed while walking through the agricultural areas. If those stories are true, that's very disturbing. And that's something that no matter what happens, I want the city council to address. Because I do not want to feel afraid or that I'm in trouble for walking on park land. There were originally trail markers and maps that I think that either the Boy Scouts or the Mountain Bike Association put in place there. I'd like to see those restored. The trails should be mowed by the South Lyon DPW or their assignee on a monthly basis. Proper notification will be given and sign postings made to the use of any farming or agricultural pesticides, herbicides, or fertilizers within the boundary of the park. As I was driving up the road today, I came up Dixboro and I saw some farmers. I love to eat broccoli. They had some very big tanker trucks down by 5 Mile and Dixboro Road, spraying all sorts of pesticides that you need to be able to grow healthy crops. I support eating healthy food. I don't support breathing that as I'm riding my bike down the asphalt trail in Volunteer Park. Trees damaged or cut down in the course of any agricultural usage of the park will be removed from the park boundaries. This is one of the most disturbing aesthetic things that's happened to the park. And I have satellite pictures from Google that I've attached to you that I've had here. In the agreement, it says small saplings and noxious weeds will be removed. There are dozens of 8-foot high piles of 20-foot trees that were ripped out of Volunteer Park. One of the reasons why I was told that Volunteer Park needed to be farmed was because it was a fire hazard. Well, living trees are much less of a fire hazard than 8-foot high piles of dead trees. Even if you're going to turn it into a soccer field later on, please get rid of those piles of dead trees. A solution would be to have a wood chipper come in there, chip those trees, and around the boundaries of the agricultural areas, restore some walking trails in Volunteer Park. What's concerning to me is I want to see a swimming pool. I would love to be able to rollerblade down from my house on 9 Mile Road to an indoor swimming pool in October and go for a swim in an indoor pool. Okay? I'd love to see that. Okay? I don't want to stop that from happening. Notification of changes, basically I'm saying you guys got to give us a chance. You can't just have a meeting in February or a meeting on Monday night at the Parks and Rec and sign it off and say, okay, it's done. Put a sign on the trail. Put it in the newspaper. You have such a beautiful website now. Please post this stuff on your website saying, concerned citizens, please come to the meeting. We're going to be discussing this. It's not fair to bury stuff in a city council agenda and then say, oh, it was on the agenda, everybody had a chance to do it. It's just not fair. People who have normal lives do not sit down and read the city council agenda every day. They go for walks in the park. In closing, I'd like to mention that on Saturday, May 11th, a group of concerned citizens, there were about 20 of us, you can see it on the Facebook page, we held a group walk on the remaining Volunteer Park nature trails and in the section of Volunteer Park where the trails have been destroyed or plowed under this spring. If you look at the map here, you can see the route that we took. We started here, right where the nice trail marker sign is. We went down here. We went through the area that's been clear cut but not totally plowed. We walked through the beautiful area that still remains, and then we cut across and we went back to the asphalt trail, we came back up. So we placed 100 of these sticks on the trail so that anyone who walks on the trail, the farmer or anybody else, can see where the trail is, where it exists. They can see where it's been clear cut, they can see where it's been plowed. Excuse me? How wide? Well, they put 100, and the trail is about 1,400.
No, we're not going to go back and forth here.
So, the trail right now that's mowed is 8 feet wide. It's showing a good faith on the part of the South Lyon City Council and the farmer. I like farmers, I honestly do, I'm not being a smart aleck. Currently plowing Volunteer Park, we request that this marked section of the trail be immediately, I'm saying I'd like to see the DPW, I walked on it this afternoon, the grass is getting a little tall. I'd like to see the tractor that mows the sports fields to take one pass through this trail and maintain that trail for us. When the bulldozers have to come in and they're going to pave it for the parking lot, we'll give up. I'm not going to lay down in front of the bulldozer. But until we have to lay down in front, until that bulldozer comes in, please don't destroy the park that we have. Let us enjoy it. So I'm going to read this one more time. In a showing of good faith on the part of the South Lyon City Council and the farmer currently plowing Volunteer Park, we request that this marked section of the trail be immediately recognized and maintained by the City of South Lyon as an officially protected portion of the Volunteer Park Nature Trail System. Pictures, maps, and other documentation links related to the Volunteer Nature Park Trails, both remaining and destroyed, are available on the Volunteer Park Nature Trails website located at vpnt.org. Thank you very much.
Is the area that you marked through
Hey,
farmland?
excuse me. We can't answer right now, you know that.
Are you going to stay to the end of the meeting?
I would be happy to
Okay.
discuss it with you.
That's perfect time.
Can I ask our city manager a question?
Sure.
Okay. I walked through the trails recently. There's a lot of dog nature on those trails, landmines, so to speak. What is the do we have an ordinance in that park on dogs, on picking, on dogs in the park and on or picking up
We do.
waste?
You're supposed to pick up after your dogs. In fact, we have some stations there with bags on them inside the park.
Okay. So, I just didn't know if, what that ordinance was. Thank you. Thanks, Ted.
Okay, anybody else wish to speak, public speak? Please state your name and address.
Hello, Jonathan Johnson, 61399 Dean Drive. I just wanted to echo some of what George Foreman said earlier. It's a matter of balance, and, you know, it was presented earlier that there's misinformation going around. I think those are all valid statements, and part of it is trying to get an understanding of where we're really at with what's going on in Volunteer Park so that the community understands and it's a community decision. Master plans are a great thing. It's a goal, and with any goal, any plan, as things develop, plans change a little bit. And I think when you look at what some of the people that are expressing their concerns about the nature trails, they existed for a long enough period of time that it became an expected part of what that park offered. It's since being removed to advance some other goals. But there hasn't been communication about what that has been, what those true goals are, and when they're going to be put into place. So someone that's been going to those trails for multiple years now, you know, there may be confusion about what is taking place because there hasn't been any notification given out to people to understand what those changes are being. And so it gets a sense that there's decisions being made that aren't being expressed to the community. And I think that's what part of what people would like to understand and be able to have a voice on. And then the other part is saying, where can we get that balance for people that enjoy one activity over the other? You know, if we need more soccer fields because that's what the city of South Lyon says it needs and wants, I think many people would be saying, great, let's do it. But is there a way that we can strike a balance where people can still go and walk on nature parks within the city of South Lyon, rather than saying, go elsewhere, go to Lyon Township, we don't have a place for you here? Because at the end of the day, we're a community, and you know, we all have different interests, but what pulls us together as a community is being able to go out and enjoy one another's company and our surroundings, and you know, that's what helps build a good community to live in. So I think those are all things worth considering, especially when we take a review of what that master plan is. So thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, we'll move on with our business tonight. Going down to Roman numeral 1, old business, we don't have any. New business, we have a couple resolutions. One is for Mental Health Month. I believe we did this last year. We found it be an important item to pass. Basically need somebody to make that motion and go from there.
I'll move to approve the resolution proclamation designating May 2013 Mental Health Awareness Month in the city of South Lyon, Oakland County, Michigan.
I'll second.
Okay, further discussion? Just real briefly on that. 1 in 5 American adults experience mental health illness that requires treatment at some point in their lives. And 1 out of 10 children has a serious mental illness that, if untreated, can lead to school failure and physical illness and so forth. So this is where they're trying to recognize this, and hopefully people will work to help improve things. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now we have the Police Week proclamation. What this is, 51 years ago, and back in '62, President John F. Kennedy signed a Public Law 87-726 designating May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day. And it falls in the middle of that weekend, May 15th. The law was amended by the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994, signed by Bill Clinton, President Bill Clinton, directing the flag of the United States be displayed at half-staff in all government buildings on May 15th each year. They have picked this date to be the date they would like to have flags at half-mast. I would like to have somebody make a motion.
I'll make the motion that we approve the proclamation for Police Week.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Reappointments. We have several positions that are up for renewal, and then and we'll be making one new appointment tonight, too. In March of each year, the staggered terms of various boards and commissions members expire. We're a little late on this. We had some in-house work to do, and so we're getting onto it now. And we're going to start off with, I'd like to appoint, because Jack Renwick has asked to not be reappointed. He will help out with the Thursday afternoon opening the Witch's Hat Museum and so forth, and still do that while he's in town, but he's gone a lot, so he felt that he was doing injustice to still be on the commission. So Linda Ross has volunteered to step forward to do a 3-year term ending in 2016. She's currently president of the Historical Society.
You missed,
Yeah,
your
we're on
group, you
two.
missed your group appointments.
Well, okay. Well, let's go ahead and appoint her then, and take care of it. That's all right.
I'll move that we appoint Linda Ross to the Historical Commission.
For the discussion, I will note she is in attendance, if she wants to raise her hand out there and be seen. Appreciate it. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we'll back up to one sheet.
You have it?
I don't know if I've got it, maybe that's why I missed it.
Oh, here.
Here it is, I got it. We have, we're gonna do this all in one lump sum, Tim?
Yes.
Margaret Kurtzwell, the Planning Commission. Keith Bradley, Planning Commission. William Rodman, Zoning Board of Appeals. Steve Mosiers, Zoning Board of Appeals. Michael Londo, Parks and Recs. Elizabeth Fife, Historical Commission. Randy Clark, Housing Commission.
I support your recommendation.
I second, I guess, your recommendation.
Okay. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I want to thank those
Thank
folks
you.
for willing to stick around on that, and we always look for new volunteers to sign up. You can fill out a form on our webpage, or come into the city hall and put in, so we can have something to work with when it comes time to replace people. You're always welcome as citizens to get involved. Police donation acceptance. What do we have, Chief?
The daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Reynolds Sweet, her name is Bonnie Piotr, and I might be butchering the name, was kind enough to send a $100 donation to the police department, both in memory of her parents and in honor of Police Officers Memorial Week. So to make it official, council needs to accept that generous donation.
I move to accept the $100 donation from Miss Bonnie
Piotr?
Piotr and thank her for her generosity.
I'll support that and absolutely thank her. Reynolds was a great fellow, and we had a lot of good times together.
Yes, we did. Okay, for discussion then is done. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we now at Lake Street Cruise In.
If you would, please.
Good evening. Mary Poole with the Lake Street Cruising.
Hit it.
Go ahead.
You're on.
Well, we're here to propose the event again to run the fourth Wednesday of every month from May through September for a car show featuring vintage cars. The show, we're requesting to have it on Lake Street from Pontiac Trail east to Reynolds Suite, leaving open, or not Reynolds Suite, Reese Street, leaving open Wells Street for north and south traffic. Pretty much the same, just extending it a block. We will have one vendor table, a DJ. I did speak with all the residents on the block between Wells and Reese, and everyone was in agreement that they thought it was a great idea. We're looking forward to the event.
Mike.
Mary, I don't have any problems with the dates or anything like that. It's just that those two blocks, I'm a little concerned about pedestrians going across Wells Street if it's still open, with traffic going north and south on that. When I looked at this originally, I thought it was just that what we did last year, the one block. You think you're gonna be able to get people to go down the entire 2-block area for the car show?
Well, what happened last year was a lot of the cars that came to participate that couldn't get in the block parked in front of, in that particular block. And at that time of night, the traffic's really quiet. So there was no issue with crossing the street to continue to look at cars that had come and were unable to be in the closed part of the street.
And you requested the road closure then for 6:30?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, I noticed the parade demonstration application, you never did check whether it was approved or denied. And I see there were some notes, but then it looks like some of those notes may have been cured along the way.
Yes, they were. There were, excuse me, there were some issues with timing and getting the proper documents in, and many things were submitted at the last minute, but I was satisfied, as was the city attorney and the city manager and the city's insurance carrier, with the documents that were finally submitted.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Ted?
Aaron.
I have a lot of questions. Some might actually be for you, Tim. First of all, this ad that was in our packet, at the bottom it says that the City of South Lyon sponsors this. How do we sponsor that, David?
We don't. I don't know why that's in there.
It was requested of me last year to make mention that the city of South Lyon was part of it by providing the space and the police services, and therefore they were recognized as part.
Okay. How does the DDA sponsor it?
With a $500 donation.
A $500 donation, and they're having trouble paying their bond this year? That's interesting. Okay. Also, I don't understand this one paper that's in here, Tim, that talks about the Pumpkin Fest. The Pumpkin Fest, that the Lake Street Cruise is to come under the umbrella of the Pumpkin Fest. How does that work legally?
Are you referring to the hold harmless agreement?
The 501c3.
The 501c3, I don't understand that paper.
The way I understand it is the entity applying for the application is the Pumpkin Fest entity. It was originally, we received an application from Mary Poole directly. Through some discussion with Chief and the staff, there was a change from an individual applicant to an entity applicant. I didn't check the status to see if that wasn't existing, but it's my understanding that entity is, in fact, the entity that runs Pumpkin Fest, so I didn't pursue that.
So this, they can, so is Pumpkin Fest isn't on here. Are they sponsoring it?
We are part of Pumpkin Fest. So if I can explain, there was a new document required this year, a hold harmless document. It was separate from, the language on it was separate. It was asking us to sign a document that held harmless the city and all its workers. To sign that as an individual would then put liability onto one personally. So it was our decision to move the event under the umbrella of Pumpkin Fest for protection with insurance and such, just as the city doesn't want to be liable for any incident. Neither does myself or anyone on our committee want to have that liability. So we could form our own 501c3, but as vice president of Pumpkin Fest, it made sense to bring this event under the umbrella of Pumpkin Fest for the legal protection of all of us.
Is that a conflict of interest, that this event is now being put under the umbrella of Pumpkin Fest when it, Pumpkin Fest is in the fall, like because she sits on it and her significant other sits on it, on the Pumpkin Fest board, is this a conflict of interest?
No, I don't believe so. But just to be clear, Pumpkin Fest as an legal entity is the applicant and will be responsible as the applicant for this permit. That is the entity that is holding the city harmless and has obtained insurance coverage, adding the city as an additional insured, consistent with the language that we require.
Okay,
So
it
that-
just so happens that the person who's putting the event on sits on Pumpkin Fest committee.
For my purposes, and I believe for the city purposes, you don't really care what the name of the company is, as long as it is a valid, legal, existing corporation under Michigan law, and it's obtained the necessary documentation to obtain the permit.
Okay.
I believe
Their
based on,
executive board approved it, so.
No, I just wanted to understand it, that's all.
I also put on
I don't
Pumpkin
understand.
Fest too, so
Pardon?
I'm also putting on Pumpkin Fest as well. Our 501c3 can begin to put on other events under it as well if we choose to come up with
Is any of the
others.
Pumpkin Fest monies going to be used for this
No.
event? No. And David, I don't think I've received the Pumpkin Fest financials that I've asked for a couple times.
You haven't, I haven't received them either.
Okay, when are you going to receive the financials?
As soon as they give them to me, I've been asking for them. I have not received them yet.
What, may
Maybe
I
we
ask
should put this
why?
on hold until we get the financials,
Why is it that you
Two.
need the Pumpkin Fest financials?
because I sit on city council and it's a city event. And I like to know what's going on in the city. That's what the people elect me for.
I just have a question. Is that legal? I don't know. I mean, we're required by the request to provide that?
I'm not sure it's a legal question, but I think the Councilman Karkowski is asked to see financials on the basis that it's been represented the city is going
And
to be
may I
a
ask
sponsor
for
of the
what
event.
purpose?
It's a city event.
Right,
I'm a city official.
yes.
I've been elected by the people.
Correct.
It's my job to oversee things.
And by seeing the financials, what do you gain by that?
I'm not sure if you should sit on the board if you're asking me that question. I mean,
I would like an answer.
I would like to know where city money goes. I mean, where money goes in this city. I see the entire budget for this entire city, which is also made public. Anybody in this community who pays tax dollars can go in and ask for a copy of our budget. And everything that we do in the city is open. Why has yours not been turned in to David?
Well, I would have to talk to some of the other board members. That's not my particular responsibility. But
Okay,
I will
well, it is my
definitely
responsibility to
bring it
ask
to
that.
them and make sure that it's taken care of.
Thank you.
We have nothing to hide. I'm just curious. I don't know.
Well, I'm just
Why?
curious, and I guess I'm just going to be curious about thinking about this until I see the budget.
I was kind of curious, what is Pumpkin Fest getting in return for their exposure to the potential legal perils that might come from an incident where the insurance is actually enacted?
We are agreeing to help fund Pumpkin Fest and also contribute towards the insurance policies for the event.
The car show is funding Pumpkin Fest? Proceeds from the car show?
A portion of it,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
As well as contributing to the insurance policy that will be needed for Pumpkin Fest.
Okay, so there is some quid pro quo. And just looking through your documents, I was heartened to see, we had talked about the idea of extending it the additional block because you were getting so much pretty car traffic that it seemed a shame that they couldn't end up all being showcased in the same light as the ones that were right out in that primary block. And I was also happy to see that all the approvals by the residents on the south side of 10 Mile, some with comments talking about how excited they were and let's have some fun and things like that. I thought that was great because I did have a little concern they might have felt entrapped by the event taking place and then not having ingress and egress to their own property. So
Well, we are leaving their driveways open, and also the fire lane down the middle allows them, if there's any need to come in or leave, that they have access.
sure, it's not like just a normal day though, where you
No,
get to go in and
no.
out as you please. But I understand Mike's concern about Wells Street, but the lion's share of traffic is going to end up going down Reese north and south, so that should be relatively maintained, and people just have to be kind of personally responsible and pay attention when they're walking, so. I look forward to this. This was an awful lot of fun last year. So.
Thank you.
I want to note on that same sheet that you're on, I'm sure it was a typo, you said we think a weekly event like this cruising will attract people. You meant monthly.
Monthly. Was that something I wrote?
Well, it's on your sign-up sheet for the residents.
I think that was a resident's comment, I think. It should be monthly.
I mean, I assumed that was a typo
Right.
there. And then the request of the parking not be allowed on the street after 5 o'clock to keep clear for the event. We can't do that. There's no way we can tell folks that can't park on their county road before that event. And we, of course, had a little problem with that last year when the local club got shut out of the first show, came early so they could be sure they were in the second show. And then, of course, as we all know, you requested them to leave because you were going to have a motorcycle show.
I think that's totally inaccurate, Mr. Mayor.
I think that's exactly what happened. And in fact, I know it did. But my thing here is
That's really
we can't
unfair.
shut the road down at 5 o'clock for even the businesses that are still open along there.
Well, the chief and I had this discussion last year, and he said your signs, you know, are just an indication of the coming event, and that truly it's not a legal formal sign, but that we're allowed to post it just to remind people that their cars needed to be off the street.
By 6:30.
And let me just clarify something about what you're speaking to. And that was that some of the participants in the show had come early and parked on the street. We have brought a particular club in every month to showcase their particular club. We had asked that the present cars on the street pull off, allow our club to come in, and then they could come in after that. They refused to do it on the grounds that it was their street and they didn't have to, which was evidently what the city determined was true, but I thought after applying for an event with city council and getting their approval, that they really should have acquiesced and just drove around the block and come in.
Come into the show at
Come
5
into the
at
show.
6:30.
At 6:30 and park the way we were parking the show.
Again, they were told it was going to be a motorcycle show and no cars were going to be in. That's a fact. So
That is not a fact.
Yes, it is. I had to deal with it. Through the chief, we dealt with it together, and Lieutenant Sovic as well.
I respectfully disagree with that statement.
Chief Kennedy, do you have a problem with the road closure for the fire truck and ambulance?
No, as long as, last year, they maintained the center fire lane. That was discussed in their application. So Chief Collins and I have discussed that. Both of us were present at the beginning for the first couple. So as long as that 10-foot lane's maintained. Reese Street was also part of Chief Collins and I's discussion about leaving that. It's not Reese, I apologize. Wells was part of our discussion about leaving that open to provide some traffic. So as long as that 10-foot lane's maintained, we're okay with it, or I'm okay with it. So,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I will say that during one of the car shows last year, that fire lane was not maintained. I had to personally intercede and get that lane cleared.
Thank you for taking care of that.
I'm unaware of that. What was the problem?
Mary, you were there. That was the day that you had banners on all of our Class 3 barricades. And I also mentioned to you that vehicles were parking not only on both curbs, but also down the center.
Well, let's just be mindful of that this year and don't allow that to take place. if we're going to allow this activity to take place, though, and I mean, it was a very nice event last year. It drew an awful lot of people from an awful long ways away into the city and exposed us with some very good press. I would like to see us try to be as accommodating as we possibly can. If we're going to allow the activity to take place, we can try to help assuage, if there's people that are parking on the street, we can try to help coax them into following the flow of what the event is going to be pulling off. I mean, if they're there early, if they could just be, it could be suggested to them that the event's going to be taking place. If they wanted to help and get in line, that would be very helpful. So, I mean, we don't end up needing to be confrontational about this. Let's just try to pull off the best event we can pull off. With that, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this.
I agree, I'll second.
Further discussion, so what we're voting is whether we are going to expand this or
The whole
Have
event,
it.
yeah, as proposed.
have it and expand it in one felt swoop.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm opposed, just, I always like people to know I am opposed due to the fact that the Pumpkin Fest financials have not been released to the city manager after numerous requests.
And so you would stop an event that's really good for the community because of that?
You have 5 months to put on this event. Maybe we stop the first one, yes, until
Well,
you have all your ducks in order.
let me just
You're
say,
not any-
Aaron-
You're not, it has to be equal for all the business owners in here. They all have to turn in their paperwork. They all have to fill the rules. You are coming to us with paperwork and asking us to put an event on in 11 days.
Well, let me just say that the packet that I was supposed to receive was not given to me. I was handed a sheet of paper for a block party permit, and it was weeks later that I found out that there was a packet that was. Now, the packet I was given was in reference to a parade. We're not having a parade, we're having an event. There is numerous information in there that does not even pertain to events being held in the downtown. The information is obsolete. There was a new document that we had never seen before, which was the hold harmless, that took a long time to get straightened out. We worked with the city attorney, with our insurance company, and things had changed from what was last year. There was not the expectation that these roadblocks would be run across. So, you know, I apologize for having it this late, but there were things that had to be addressed. And they took this time.
And that's your responsibility, and I know
I
Chief
take that
Collins always
responsibility.
makes time for citizens in this town. So, you know, if you had questions with him, I know he was always available to people in this town. So I'm not going to sit here and argue with you. I'm just telling you, I think it's polite for me to tell you why I said no. That's all.
Mr. Mayor, I think it passed, but I'm going to request a
Yeah,
roll call.
really, absolutely.
Kibble?
Yes.
Kipkowski?
No.
Risey?
No.
Wallace?
No.
Waddell?
Yes.
Kramer?
Yes.
Dixon?
Did you say yes or no? I'm sorry.
I said yes.
Okay.
Passed.
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay, move on to adoption of the cultural arts bylaws.
Yes, ma'am. Linda Lemke, the chairperson of the Cultural Arts Commission, is going to speak to that.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. I'm here with representatives from the Cultural Art Commission that are sitting to my left over here, which I'd love to introduce. And then also, I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding the bylaws. Also, any questions you have regarding our proposed budget. I do have a very short presentation, if you would be interested in having me do that, that might answer some of your concerns in regards to the budget. So I'm available however you wish to proceed.
We'll just start with introductions.
All right, I'll start with introductions. I have my vice chairperson, that would be Dr. Bradley Bloom. Thank you. And Ken Mahalik is our graphics art person and right-hand person. And then we have two other members that are not here tonight. That would be Kelly Smith and Cheryl Smith. Oh, Cheryl is here. I'm sorry, Cheryl. Cheryl is right there. Cheryl Smith. Do you want to stand, Cheryl? So that is my introductions. Would you like me to go ahead and give a presentation, or do you
I'd like to ask, I'm sorry, Cheryl, what was your background?
In the arts?
Yes.
I was the arts director at Northwood University for 11 years, and I have a master's in arts administration.
Okay. I couldn't remember that.
Mike?
I would like to hear your presentation, just to see where you're at and what you're looking forward to going to.
All right. That would be my pleasure to do that. We have two handouts we'd like to pass around to you, if that's all right.
Sure.
All right. Thank you. I'd like to go through first what we've accomplished in less than a year. We've researched other communities' bylaws. We've written our Cultural Arts Commission bylaws, which you have before you tonight for approval. We've met 2 times with the city attorney for review and fine-tuning of these proposed bylaws. We've also completed our cultural arts mission statement, which is part of your handout tonight. And briefly, that would be that the mission of the Cultural Arts Commission of South Lyon is to encourage, facilitate, present, and promote visual and oral art forms in the city of South Lyon so as to benefit and enrich the city and its residents. We've also completed the Cultural Arts Commission's logo, and you'll see that on the handout that you have before you that is showing the proposed atrium gallery, which I'll talk about in a minute. The Cultural Arts logo has a saying underneath it, which is helping to make our city a work of art. We decided on our first project, the atrium gallery. This is utilizing the space right outside these doors, which is an underutilized but fabulous space, already home to the school administration and the city administration offices. We felt that it could be a unique community gallery that focuses on and recognizes both local school and artists, and utilizes the space as a center for community access and enjoyment of the visual arts. And with the fees generated, can help fund future art events in the city. We came to this conclusion by first researching community galleries. Then we researched hanging and panel display systems that would accommodate many works of arts and would be able to be reused yearly after the first purchase. We designed the atrium gallery layout, and I have a book I'd like to pass around for you that shows how you can move through the space, that you would have handicap access, and that what some of the panel and the hanging art systems would consist of. We met with Supervisor Bill Pearson and have his approval to use the atrium as a gallery. We are presently coordinating ideas with the curriculum coordinator for the South Lyon Community Schools. We established a gallery exhibition schedule and entry rental fees. One of the reasons that we wanted to use the gallery, or to do the gallery, was to actually highlight the school systems. And we're proposing basically 2 South Lyon community student school shows at 2 different times, where we would focus on the students in the community and bring them together in a community atmosphere. And we would solicit prizes to be donated by local businesses to recognize those students. This would include the elementary, middle, and high school art students. In addition, we would, the Cultural Arts Commission would put on 2 shows that would be for local artists, and they would be a theme show, such as a seasonal theme, a landscape show, a floral show. For these shows, we would charge an entry fee to the artist that would be applying for these, and then we would also take 20% commission for any the artwork that would be sold at that time. That would not apply to the ones that we would, of course, do for the school system. The remainder of the year, which is approximately 8 months, we would rent out this space at either a range of $200 to $300, we haven't exactly decided on that amount, to an artist that would want to have a 1-person or possibly 2-person show. In addition to that, we would also collect a 20% sales fee from any art that would be sold. At renting it at $200 to $300, that would give us an income of $1,600 to $2,400. We also put together an itemized budget for the purchase of the hanging systems and the promotion of the proposed gallery. I think you did not see this. This is the sheet that actually breaks it down into how many stiffeners and how many hanging wires and all that kind of thing. What you saw were the totals of that for the budget. And I'll talk more about the atrium budget in a minute, but I wanted to continue with what else we've done. We've met with Bob Martin several times to coordinate and support the Concert in the Park program. We put together a list of local artists and artist groups that we can send announcements to for the gallery shows. We put together a list of next proposed cultural art projects. We are delineating on a large-scale map the areas in the city where various art opportunities can occur. We believe we have met the goals and objectives, items 1 through 8 of sections 2-213, chapter 2, article 5, division 6, which essentially is the Cultural Arts Commission ordinance. Specifically, the proposed atrium gallery will increase public awareness of the necessity and desirability of visual arts, develop a center or central clearinghouse for events such as a community-wide plein air or paint out, murals, sculptures, small works, or environmental art. The artists could submit drawings and the entry fee for these events, and then display these drawings in the gallery, and again, we could charge a 20% commission for the sales of the gallery. We want to tie the cultural arts art events to the existing community festivals wherever possible, to work with community groups and to encourage the support of business educational institutions. And we are also developing a cultural and art plan for the city of South Lyon. In regards to the budget, we are asking for a $6,500 budget for the Cultural Arts Commission per section 2-214 budget and funding, which says that the Cultural Arts Commission shall annually recommend to the City Council a budget with estimates for costs and expenses necessary to fund the objectives and purpose of the Cultural Arts Commission.
I have some questions for you. This, we had a budget meeting last week, and this came up, and there was a lot of issues as far as this becoming a budget item under our budget. You mentioned showcasing some student art
Yes,
in the atrium if we were to pay for the
hanging system.
hanging system in the atrium. Have you approached the school board about possibly funding some of that if we were going to showcase some of the student art? Because
we have talked to the supervisor, and he has indicated that he would give us permission to use the building, but we have not discussed any funds.
Okay. So right now, we would be funding the city would be funding the entire hanging system?
Yeah, the hanging system basically is 86% of our budget. It's the total for the hanging systems, which is a panel system, which you see in that drawing, and then a wall hanging system. The total amount for that is $5,611.62.
Okay. Is this going to be a request, I mean, let's put it this way. Every year, is your committee or your Cultural Arts Commission going to be coming back to the city saying, we would like an additional $5,000 or $6,000?
No, we wouldn't do it. This is a one-time equipment purchase expense. And then these panels are be able to be broken down. The hanging systems basically stay on the wall, but you take the hanging wires off of it and they become part of the wall. They will be painted the same color as the walls.
Okay, because that was part of our spirited discussion on Wednesday night, whether or not this was going to be something that would come back every year where your commission would ask us for a budget to be approved as part of the city budget. So where I'm going with is if we were to approve this one-time purchase, is it your goal to be a self-sustaining commission and hopefully make enough money each year to start expanding into other areas through grants? Or will you be coming back to the city each year asking for additional funds?
It is certainly our goal to generate money in terms of fundraising, grants, solicitations from businesses. Just for me to say that we wouldn't come back and ask for money for a specific event, I think would be kind of premature. But it has always been our goal is to try and generate some money, like for instance with the gallery, that we would charge the fees and the percentages. And that, other events that we're thinking about, like a paint out, or, where everyone would be painting around, or a sidewalk art, we would have people submit to be part of that. It would be an entry fee, and that entry fee would certainly go to support other art events. It is certainly our intent to do that.
Okay.
You can see from the rest of the budget, basically, that we have operating expense, community promotions, and office supplies. So basically, we're looking at this as kind of like seed money to just get started, and then we can generate other monies.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor?
Joe?
Yeah, I really commend the Arts Commission. I think this is a lot of work, and I agree full-heartedly with the mission and the whole spirit of what's trying to be accomplished. The issue I have is in the minutes from April 3rd of 2012. It says in the bottom of the page, Councilman Rizzi questioned the financing of these projects. City Manager Murphy stated that council would have to adopt a department budget. At that time, I voted no on this because I felt that, again, this is a very good mission and place direction to go for our community, but I did not feel that taxpayers should be subsidizing the commission. And for that reason, I voted no. Strictly speaking about what we're voting today is regarding the bylaws. And right here in the bylaws, it states here, on March 1st of each year, the CAC shall submit to the City Council an annual report and plan, including a proposed budget. If appropriate, detailing potential projects and desirable goals for the next fiscal year. And then in Section K, it says the CAC shall annually recommend to the City Council a budget with estimates for costs and expenses, et cetera, et cetera. So from my perspective, again, I really feel that this is a noble cause, and I support it, but I do not support it with taxpayers' dollars. So for that reason, I do not support this budget today.
I'd just like to say that
Aaron?
it is in the cultural arts ordinance that we are required to annually recommend to City Council and give a report. So in our bylaws, we were just reiterating that section, which is 2-214.
Yeah, I'm not, maybe this is a question for Tim, but me personally, I would have liked to see language saying something along the lines of this should be funded through fundraising efforts or grant money, explicitly mentioning that. If it had that type of language, I would be more comfortable.
I have an extensive architecture, art history background. So just so you know that I am a big supporter of the arts. Recently, our city took on a very big infrastructure program that raised the water bills in our area, in our city. I struggled with that decision. I struggled very hard with that decision based off of the amount of people I know who are getting government lunches at school, the amount of people who are going to Active Faith and seeking help. And it was a very hard decision for me. I had a very long time to make it. I, spoke with a lot of administration to make that decision. I understand that you're looking for this certain amount for seed money to get started. And I just really can't support that based off the fact that it's not just like money that Dave just writes a check. It is money that's coming from hard-earned taxpayers. And I think that you need to start your seed money with a fundraiser. I think that the people in this community, including myself, who support the arts and maybe have a little bit of money to spend, could come out and get you started with your seed money. I just don't see that I can spend taxpayers' dollars when there's taxpayers in this town that can't feed their children when they send them to lunch. Art is a luxury. I enjoy art, and I belong to many memberships and many things. I've had to cut out a few myself of who I support and what I go to because of I'm in an economy-driven business, and I really just can't support this for us to give you seed money. I think the work that you've done is excellent. I'm a little surprised the work is inside. I thought the work would be more outside in the community, but maybe there's time for that. You're just getting started. I would also like to let you know that I was one of those young, starving artist kids, and I looked for contests. You were talking about people having membership, having an entry fee to enter into something. There's also, there's CCS, there's Lawrence Technological University, there's UAD, University of Detroit, that all have fabulous, fabulous programs. And, myself, I was in a contest with, Barry Gordy, the founder of Motown Museum, and Marvin Gaye Foundations, and, I took first place in one of those. And that was a huge thing on my resume as I pursued my career in architecture. And I think that maybe you should think about offering up something like that to the community where you're actually going to help another artist, and maybe we could have something outdoor and a little more visible. But I still do commend that what you've done is fabulous, but I think that you need to start your seed money with a fundraiser for the people in the community that have the luxury of affording art, because I don't think all our taxpayers do. Thank you.
Harvey.
Thank you. I'd just like to point out that the matter before us today is the approval of the bylaws for the Cultural Arts Commission. The budget is another matter which we'll be taking up on another day, and then we can make some decisions on the budget based on needs. I would recommend that we act on this today and allow the Cultural Arts Commission to get underway. Thank you.
The bylaws reference something with our budget, though, correct?
They do. They reference a budget. They don't reference our budget. They have to submit a budget.
Councilman Waddell is correct. It's a recommendation to council for the money they would be seeking. It doesn't require that they seek any money, but it does require, if they were to find a need for money, that they would come to the council. The Cultural Arts Commission cannot bind or spend money on its behalf without your approval. So there are mechanisms in place to prevent that. So I think that language in item K of the Article 3 it is not mandatory. City Council has final discretion and decision on any money that would be allocated, spent, or perhaps the revenue that comes into the Cultural Arts Commission.
It's so you get to see the financials.
Well, we should see we should see all the financials.
Well, I'll make the motion.
Well, everybody's had a moment. Could I just take a couple of minutes to do exactly what everyone else has had an opportunity to? Do you guys have a prospective show schedule for the 4 events that you had suggested would take place in the lobby?
We are hoping to start in the fall. Obviously.
Are you starting with your show or with the school,
Yeah,
the student show?
We would like to start with the student show, but it would depend on the school schedule. So
Okay.
we would have to, first of all, we would have to purchase the equipment, install the equipment, and then we could immediately start doing the show schedules. So that, that in working with the school systems, that's what we would be looking at, whichever worked first.
My 2 cents worth on the thing is I would like to see the show that's got the biggest bang be your initial show, simply so that you can end up presenting as strongly as you possibly can. I understand the idea of trying to, take advantage of the fact of what the students can provide and all that stuff, but I'd love to see something that had as much pop as you could muster. The panel system now, is that a commercial panel system?
It is.
Okay, are the pedestals of the same make as the panels?
They are exactly the same.
Yes, okay. I worked for 20 years in the display industry, taking shows around the world, and I'm very familiar with panelized systems, and I was kind of curious, where do you intend to store these when they're not being used?
We are working with David Murphy in regards to that, and
Dave's
we're
gonna put
getting
them in his
closer to finding a spot for them.
Okay. I was hoping that you might have, I'm sure that you guys have had passive conversations about what you anticipate as far as the more grand scale of where you'll end up. I mean, I know that we have, you have expertise in choral work with Mr. Bloom and, the visual arts. I'm sure that your intention is to try to get as much exposure into all those mediums as is possible. Have you guys forecasted some of what your intentions are?
Well, we wanted to start with visual arts, but we certainly haven't eliminated any of the oral arts, which is why that's in our mission statement. Long-term grand plans are to have, an art center. We've talked, about that as a possibility. I mean, that's dreaming really big and getting grants and doing all that kind of prep work. But
have you talked about coupling up with some of the events that already exist and having?
Absolutely, we do want to tie into all the events.
Right,
With some of the other events, like I mentioned briefly, we've thrown, we have like top 10 right now that we're looking at, like perhaps for the next top 10. So if we were looking at, like a sculpture walk or a small works paintings on buildings, then we would certainly want to tie that into an event so that people that were like at the Pumpkin Fest or one of the other festivals could come and participate in that at the same time.
I know this is a much more controlled environment here, but I think that probably most of the people sitting on this body were expecting the downtown show to be your initial endeavor, taking advantage of the passive exposure of people going in and out of town and things, so that you don't have to rely on people showing up at City Hall to be able to enjoy whatever the show ends up presenting. So this, I think, came as somewhat of a surprise that this is the direction that you chose to put as your first foot forward. Not that I think that there's anything wrong with that. I think you can end up doing a bang-up job. It's just that I think that ancillary passive traffic that's going downtown. Do you remember when the mural was up on the side of the Herald building?
Yes.
That didn't take an awful lot of energy to generate a great deal of conversation about that. And so I think that most people were thinking that that would end up being your first blush, but that takes a great deal more planning and orchestrating and buy-in by artists to be able to, like the mural on the side of a building and that type of thing. So I can understand where this would be easier to collect a gallery's worth of stock to be able to make a good presentation. Personally, I'm in favor of the whole thing. I know that, especially with this 20% commission that you're talking about, everybody that ends up entering one of the shows agrees to that 20% commission. So you will generate revenue. I'm sure that you're going to end up getting art aficionados that will end up giving some kind of donation just without any kind of return, simply because they're going to be supporting what's going on. So I'm very proud of what you guys are doing.
Thank you. And again, we wanted to have a center where we could fall back on our outdoors and earn an additional monies for the city. And also something that would go on long-term, that instead of just having one event a year or two events, that we would have supplemental income that we would be generating all year round.
Mm-hmm. I think having some feel for what your projected event schedule might end up being, whether it's a hard, fast one or just some kind of a synopsis of what you're hoping to accomplish, would probably go a long ways towards helping people see what your vision is. So,
Well, I'll finish my motion now. I'll make my motion that we approve the CAC bylaws as presented.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
when's the
I'm not
intention
going-
for the, to talk about the budgeted portion of this then?
Well, that's why I was willing to go along this far. We got more discussion on this.
Yeah, this is just a.
No, I'm asking, when do you intend this would be on?
When we pass the budget.
Okay.
I have no problem passing this, the bylaws, but I cannot, in good faith, pass the budget for you. I suggest your next meeting be on how to earn money to start up.
Well, we have discussed that. We discussed on how to go after money. However, we were charged with bringing a budget to you, and so we decided on this particular project for our first one. And, again, looking is for seed money, just office expenses and, promotional expenses, despite the equipment.
Okay.
And it's a long-term thing. I think we can pay for it over a number of years, and it would be good for the city.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we proceed, how many students we have back here assigned by their teacher to be here?
They're really
You've done well to serve your time here. You're willing, if you would like to come up right now, get a signature saying you were here, so we can get you home to catch your favorite TV program before you go to bed.
Look at those smiles.
Okay, anybody here is good for you.
Are you learning anything?
Yeah.
See, I listened to
right.
you earlier.
Keep studying.
Good night.
Kind of interesting. Okay.
That was a polite way of saying, thank God I'm out of here.
Okay, we move on to number 7, Title VI Plan.
There's a lot of dead trees.
Sorry, I got my little pile.
Mr.
I'll
Mayor,
walk
if I
over
could,
yours.
Tim, go ahead.
I'm going to jump in on this one. This is a plan that is required, it came to us through MDOT. To remain eligible to receive state and federal funding, you are required to have an adopted Title VI plan. Title VI is part of the Civil Rights Act, and this plan, to describe it in a nutshell, provides for procedures, guidelines, language to be included in contracts. There's also a limited English proficiency aspect so that you're not discriminating against people that don't speak English very well. There's procedures for dealing with those people. It assigns your city clerk, Lisa Deaton, to be in charge of this program. This is required, and under the MDOT notice, you're required to adopt this and have it published on your website by June 3rd of this year. So this document has been submitted to MDOT, it has been reviewed by them and given their blessing. So in my opinion, it is ready to be adopted by this council.
Make a motion, we adopt it.
I'll second.
Support that.
Further discussion?
Look it up.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I have two and they're done.
HRC's Lake Street project agreement.
At the last council meeting, you approved the design portion of the East Lake Street project, but the council asked that Jesse come to this meeting to talk about a couple other aspects of the quality control and the resident representative portions of the contract. So Jesse's here tonight to speak to that. Jesse, would you speak to that, please?
So Jesse Van de Creek, HRC, Bloomfield Hills, Michigan.
How'd you enjoy the meeting so far?
Very entertaining.
Got a long one for you, too.
So I understand at your last council meeting on April 22nd, the item that had been taken up was a April 9th proposal drafted by my office that essentially outlined the engineering requirements necessary to implement the paving program from CSX Railroad, essentially westerly to the city limits. A little bit of background on the project. My understanding is that the county had some remaining monies. The state had some remaining monies to allocate, and therefore David, in his conversations with the Road Commission for Oakland County and with Livingston County, and the project that they will be doing, they're doing a project from Rushton Road all the way to the city limits. Everybody was excited to take advantage of this additional money to basically extend that project now from Rushton all the way now to CSX Railroad. So that's why, along with this proposal, it sort of came in three different estimates. Initially, we were only looking at a project that the city could, as I understand, that David could budget. And that's why initially the only estimate we had prepared was the estimate from the Pontiac Trail to the CSX Railroad. So essentially the eastern part of downtown. And that alone, we came out to a total project budget of around a little over $200,000. And I think that David saw that that was something that was palatable. And then, of course, as he was reached out to by Mike Crane in Livingston about the other project and the potential to maybe leverage more money that was available, the suggestion was made to give him a couple more estimates, mainly for the intersection, which is a big one, because that one on its own is an awfully big undertaking anytime we work on the main intersection of Pontiac Trail and 10 Mile. And then, of course, from Pontiac Trail to the western city limit. So that's why you have three different estimates that came along with this proposal. And what I did at the city manager's request was put together what the engineering budget would be for that whole length. We're talking about a mile-long paving project in one of the busiest corridors in the region. This is a significant project on Lake Street. Something that didn't get really elaborated on in here, and really something that's going to be a challenge. It's a challenge for us right now designing the project that you just approved. It's going to be a heck of a challenge building them, are that the state is requiring, as part of us taking advantage of these funds, for us to upgrade the ADA sidewalk ramp, or all the sidewalk ramps at all the intersections along that entire mile to meet ADA requirements. So essentially, we've got a little mini grading design project at all four corners of all 10 of those intersections, in addition to laying them out and building them.
The clock was already ticking on that, though.
Yeah,
so,
we knew that was coming.
Okay, good. I'm glad you were aware of that.
And it's 1 to 12. It's not rocket science.
In a nutshell.
Go ahead.
It still
so
is
that
additional
essentially
costs,
outlines
though,
the
that
project.
It is
are
additional
Yeah,
cost that
right.
we knew that we was going to do.
You know, at the last meeting, one of the big points of contention was the idea of the resident engineer. With that Michigan money and federal money and stuff, it's an obligation that we don't have a choice on, so.
You know, they require the project to be observed in accordance with their standards for documentation. That's daily construction observation. And a lot of that doesn't just start when the project begins, it starts well in advance. There's a significant detour and routing plan that needs to occur. There's a significant public engagement aspect that needs to occur with regard to notification and coordination with the business owners and the residents along that corridor. You're probably talking about, out of a total of maybe 45 days of hard construction work for that mile, you've probably got 90 days, that's why I said 8 to 10 weeks in the additional documentation, of truly administering the project from the beginning to the end. My understanding was that your specific questions were those two elements, the resident rep and the quality control. My understanding is that there was some confusion over what those entailed. So I put together this supplemental piece of information here. It was dated May 7th, 2013. Hopefully you all have that in your packets. And I tried to lay out, a lot of people just see a mill and overlay job, what's going on out there. Well, first of all, starting out with the quality control, I wanted to lay out specifically the items of work that are necessary to meet the MDOT requirements for acceptance of the construction work. And they do involve, without going into the equipment, nuclear density testing gauges out there by certified personnel on a daily basis, starting at all the structures and all the sidewalk ramps on a daily basis, and kind of folding into the materials testing that goes along as each one of those items is put into place, whether that be concrete that's being poured or asphalt that's being placed. There's a field element to each one of these as they go on, and there's also a laboratory element to each one as well. In order for MDOT to accept it, it has to be demonstrated that the materials have been tested in a lab. So for concrete, what's that mean? Concrete, that means that on site we're taking 3 cylinders of cast concrete right out of the truck as it's being poured. The temperature of that concrete is taken, the slump is measured on site, and the water cement ratio is calculated, because we reject that truck if it doesn't meet all those requirements, so we don't get bad concrete. The cylinders are then taken back to a lab. They're cured and broken with a compressive strength machine at 7, 14, and 21 days to make sure that we've achieved, I believe on this project, Road Commission is going to require a 3,500 pounds per square inch concrete. Until that goes through the lab process, none of those materials are really formally accepted. And it's not uncommon for us to come back and have to notify the contractor or his sub that something was out of compliance, so we got to do it all over again. So that's just, for example, on what happens on a sidewalk slab or a curb or a structure adjustment.
Whose dime is the redo on?
Contractors.
Yeah.
But the whole point of this is to protect our investment. It's to make sure that what we designed and what the taxpayers have paid for is what you're getting. It's literally to protect the money that you're getting, making sure it's being spent in the proper way. On the asphalt, it's similar. We got a bunch of undercutting that's going to happen out there in that road after they mill it off. The Road Commission standard is a 9-inch thick section. The maximum you can place is 3 inches at a time. So you're looking at this procedure occurring when we mill down that road up to 3 times in every spot. And it's not just 1 mile on a straight line. It's 1 mile on an average of 32 feet wide. So it's a significant effort to provide testing services, or QA, QC, quality control and quality assurance, for a 1 mile long paving project on a main arterial in Oakland County and South Lyon. It is not a simple effort to be undertaken.
Hey, Mike.
Jesse,
Yes, sir.
I understand what you've put in the letter. My question is, how'd you come up with the numbers? So, for example, in my field, I mean, what I bill, it's 10 hours work or whatever like that. What do I bill? 200, 225 an hour? I don't know. That's how you come up with money. How did you come up with the $22,000 for a resident representative? I mean, what was that based on? Was that based on the number of hours?
My firm's been in business now. We're going to be celebrating our 100th anniversary in 2015. We do these not only across Southeast Michigan, but around the Midwest. And we know exactly what, within a 0.5% of what the level of effort with QAC goes on a mile of asphalt paving.
Well, that's where I'm leading to. Are you saying that you take a percentage of the total project cost, like, for instance, if the construction costs are X amount, you automatically take 25% of that, and that's what you're gonna come up with your,
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when we design and have to construct a mile of project, we know roughly what within a couple percent or tenths of a percent, the level of effort is gonna have to be in hours and manpower.
Well, that's-
I told you in here that I have 6 to 8 people assigned to this project, right, over an 8 to 10 week period. If I do that math, yeah, you can do the math too, you'll see that really the hourly rate, my resident reps and my lab technicians are making somewhere between $20 to $30 an hour. So if you do the whole math on the project, that's about what you're gonna come up with.
so that's what I'm trying to establish. So the
Yes.
$22,000 for a resident representative is based on certain number of man hours, times what?
We're talking about a range and scale between, like for example, on the DWRF, you've got a field supervisor. I have a field supervisor. We're going to have multiple crews on this project, likely up to 4 observers on the job at one time. So I'm going to have a variation of hourly rate.
Well, see, that's, I mean, I hate to be specific about this, but part of the agreement we reached with HRC was we wanted to know what hourly rate we were being charged for the services that were being provided by that individual. Remember, we had the breakdown, so-and-so is charging $135 an hour, for example. I don't know if that's true. But when you give us a ballpark number of 22,000, it leads one to suspect that what you're doing is just taking percentage of the overall costs, construction costs, and then, breaking it down what the engineering costs would be for the project, as opposed to actually sitting down and saying, we need 8 people, various levels, thank you. And this is what they're gonna be paid per hour, and this is how we're coming up with this number. I mean, in order for me to feel better about what's going on here, as opposed to just seeing a flat number of $22,000, I think in the future, and even on this one, it'd be nice to do a breakdown, just to see who's doing what their hourly rate is, and how much, or how many hours you anticipate they're gonna be on the project.
I can completely appreciate that. I'm asking you to keep in mind the fact that this is a budget. It's truly the resident rep and the quality assurance and quality control. Again, history tells us how much time it's going to take.
Well, I understand that, but when we approve budgets, we have a tendency of paying the full budget. Or sometimes you come back and say, we were a little short, we need some more. But we appreciate the fact that when we approve this budget, we can pretty much bet, a high percentage that that's what we're going to be paying. It's not going to be a situation where we're going to get a refund. So that's why it makes it easier seeing who's doing what.
And quite frankly, this is the only way we can really budget a project when we don't have any control over the actual efficiency of the contractor. I could propose to you, if you guys were more acceptable to this, is simply to do it on a time and materials basis. We can do that. Strictly on time and materials. I can have every person who works on the job just bill their time. I don't have to manage their budget then or try to control it because I know that you're going to pay it.
I understand that. What I'm trying to say is I'd just like to see a breakdown of what the 22,000 means for a resident representative. Like, this is what we anticipate we're going to need this person or these 6 people for this number of hours based on this project that we've done over and over again. And we anticipate that these 6 individuals, you'll have an hourly rate between X and Y. So that just gives us an idea what the 22,000 is going to.
Yeah, that can be
That's all
provided.
I'm asking. It's just an estimate of what you think, these people are going to do to come up with that 22,000. Because I'm pretty sure back at the office, you kind of have numbers that add up to this $22,000.
Absolutely.
Or $22,000 for a resident representative. I'm just suggesting maybe that in the future, we see that, so we have a better understanding of what you anticipate is going to be, what the costs are going to be as an estimate.
Can do that.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Joe?
Yeah, I have a question for Mr. Murphy, actually. This is a really large project for our city, and I was curious if since it is a county road, if there's any consideration or thought was put into hiring somebody else, another engineering service from Oakland County, or?
Well, if we went with Oakland County would turn around and hire HRC. HRC is one of the 3 or 4 engineering firms that they use, and they usually go with the local firm.
Okay,
So it would end up being HRC, and the prices would be the same.
Do we know that they would definitely choose HRC, Oakland County would? Did you investigate that part?
I've talked to them, yes.
And they said they would choose HRC in this
They said
in this
they would
project?
they would normally go with the local one. Now, I
Without
guess I
having a-
could ask them to use someone else.
Without having figures, or did they get an estimate from HRC to know that they would go with them?
No.
Okay, so how would they, I don't understand how they could say they would
Because
go with them.
whenever, do you want to explain it?
Because we have an as-needed contract for our COC that's pre-negotiated for an indeterminate amount of time. So we are serving your best interest. That's the whole point here.
Right, I
We've
just
already
wanted to
done
see-
the due diligence and looked at everybody's pricing and made sure that we were the appropriate.
Okay. Well, maybe I'm not familiar with the whole aspect of how it works, but I just really don't understand how you could say that they would definitely hire you without having any figures given. They have the option to choose other firms, correct?
Well, they go out for bid.
Okay, so.
I don't know if it's once every 3 years or whatever, but then they choose certain firms. And then they go with those firms. If they're in Auburn Hills, they may use OHM, for instance.
So for this particular.
Because OHM is usually in Auburn Hills. So therefore, they try and go
Right.
with the firm that that community is familiar with.
So if this particular project was, if we considered using Oakland County, they would send it out for bid, is what you're saying?
Well, first of all,
No?
Mr.
That's
Rizzi,
what I'm asking.
I don't think they would take this project on.
Okay, and you asked them if they would?
No, I did not.
Okay, you told me that, okay, Nathan.
I told you I spoke with them about utilizing them if they were to take that on.
Okay, well, because, I mean, from my opinion, I would like to see some other, since it's a county road and since this is such a big project, to see what the figures are, just to see, to
To
know.
see what figures are.
Well, if we were to see, first of all, if Oakland County would be willing to take it on, which we haven't asked them, and if they're not, okay, then that answers my question.
Well, that
If they are,
doesn't-
then what would the
That's
cost
not usually
be?
the way it works. You know, the federal aid money came down, even though it's an Oakland County road, we can utilize that money for that road. If it were up to Oakland County, that money wouldn't be going towards that road. It would probably be going out to Griswold or one of the other roads that needs to be paved from gravel.
Oakland County's giving us the money, but Oakland County
Well,
won't.
it's
It's
not
our
really-
responsibility to get the project done. It's our responsibility to utilize the money. They're not gonna play.
Well, the
Oakland's
money's not
road,
coming
but
from
it's
Oakland
coming
County,
from
it's coming from the
Livingston.
state.
Right, I was just curious if there was any other,
Yeah, through the Huron Valley.
Right, but they're not gonna do the project for us or supervise the project for us. It's up to us to get the project done.
okay, no more questions.
Okay, Mike?
Joe raised an interesting point
I'm just
on
trying to
the
understand.
Oakland County Road Commission. As one of the firms that has won the bid or whatever to do construction work for Oakland County, as part of that agreement, do you have a cap, or do you have like the maximum hourly rate you can charge for services provided by your engineers regardless of seniority? I'm just curious.
Quite frankly, one of my partners handles that, the actual contract with Road Commission, but I can tell you this, it's a quality-based selection system. It's not based on low price.
Oh, I understand.
That's a
but-
factor.
Oh, no, I understand,
So
but
as
is
far,
there,
I
is
don't
there
know
a
if I can,
maximum hourly rate you can charge the county for work
I
that
can't
you
answer
perform?
that. I would have to bring in a partner of my firm to answer that question to you. I don't have that contract.
Okay, the reason I'm asking, this is a county road.
Absolutely.
So would that fall under the parameters of any agreement that your firm may have with Oakland County as far as how much you can charge per hour based on the different levels of seniority of your people?
All I can tell you is that I have never seen anything like that. I can understand the question, but I have never seen a maximum hourly rate to be imposed.
Well, you've got a rate schedule with us. You probably have a rate schedule with Oakland County. If they have a better rate, I think that they're suggesting we'd like to take Oakland's rate, so.
Okay.
Good questions?
Well, so
So where we stand now on. as
Now,
far
how
as the
much
project?
time and material work do you guys do for HR, or for Oakland County? Yeah.
But it's, a
I mean,
you know,
want the project to go to
that way I have no budget.
Got a lot of money.
I mean, that,
Right.
this is the
She's
way this
keeping them on
business
their
is
toes
done.
for the next
you know?
time.
All we have to do.
That's all it is.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, that's all I have.
All right.
So do you want to execute the remainder of that contract, or do you want me to bring that back to you?
Me personally, I'd like to see the fee schedules that Mike was talking about, the breakdowns, but it's just me.
Hey, Dave, could you do it once around the block? How much of this is out of our pocket for the entire project? How much is out of the state?
Oh, you're asking one question.
I'm sorry, I don't have that information at my fingertips.
Do you have a thumbnail?
I think,
Even percentages?
God, I really don't know. I remember 216,000 was coming from the city out of, what was the total
700.
project?
So you're getting
700
nearly
and some odd
$500,000.
thousand.
Okay.
And those are, please, just rough estimates, don't hold me to them, but I believe that's
Yeah, okay.
fairly accurate.
I
can
guess
go
the
get
point
that
I
if you
wanted to
like.
make was that we're getting a big bang for what our input into
This
this
is
is.
being run through what's called MDOT's local agency program, and basically the way that works is they give you the money to construct, you pay for the design and the CE. You know, that's just the way the program works.
Right.
It's nothing new.
Well, I make a motion that we approve the remainder of the engineering contract with HRC for the Lake Street Road project.
I'll second.
Further discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Mike?
I would like to see a breakdown in the future instead of just flat figures, what it actually is made up of. And I would also, David, if possible, or Jesse, I would like to see if there is a rate schedule already agreed with, or agreed to with Oakland County as far as projects.
I can check on that for you and see if they have the same structure.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Managers report.
I have nothing this evening, sir.
Touching my stuff.
Council comments. Glenn, I'm catching a little sentence down there. Council comments?
Yeah, actually, to Mr. Foreman, I like the idea of you guys embracing the park as much as you have. I think that's awfully nice, and I can certainly understand that. I would suggest to you, though, that it was always a placeholder, and, you know, the intention had been planned a long time ago, what types of things would actually be constructed in there. I've never been in approval of the idea of what's going on with the farm thing. I think most of that was all hooey, but it is what it is now, and I think that they've fulfilled the maximum footprint that's going to be taking place now. When you guys did your walk around on Saturday, did you stake where it used to be, or did you stake what would be promising to take place from this point forward?
Basically where it is and where it used to be.
Because where it used to be is really a non-starter. I mean, they're going to be farming that, so.
That's not true, because with a 20-foot easement through, if you look at may I show you the map, and that it'll be clear?
Can you just talk it
No,
through?
no, let's
This is
just,
council comment.
Can you just talk it through?
In the south meadow that's been farmed, that was farmed last year, the trail ran at the northern edge of the south meadow.
Okay.
There's about a 100-foot section there that this year, the large trees that were there were removed, and now it's been basically plowed all the way north until you get to the central meadow that has the wetland area. So what we would be asking is instead of having a discontinuous trailway that's disconnected through farmland that people have been harassed as they walk through, we would ask the farmer to maintain a right of passage where a grass strip would allow us to walk from the asphalt pathway bike trail along the border of the farmland to cross over into the west woods that has the nicest portion of the trail remaining.
Does this bisect what he's farming, the sections?
Bisect about
See, because that's problematic. I mean, you got to recognize that.
See,
Why would you
Okay, don't let him argue, please.
I don't know, what do you do, hammer it and say no?
of grass? Why?
Okay, we've had
Seems
enough from
problematic
audience
to me. I mean, it's-
participation. I know you asked a question, Glenn, but we just can't.
Now, wait a second.
This is
When
council
he was
comments.
talking earlier, the time to have the dialogue was suggested at council comments. That's where we're at right now.
Well, perhaps you can talk to him after the meeting. I know he stays after. He stayed after the last meeting. He's very cordial and fun and a nice person to talk to, actually.
So you're suggesting that you couldn't end up gleaning anything worthwhile from a dialogue?
I've had my discussions with him.
Okay, well,
If I may say one more thing though, the only thing disappointing about this entire meeting is I was given the name of the park and recreation leader, his email and his phone number. I sent 2 emails to him and I called him and I never received any contact or response from anybody from Parks and Rec. I've also sent emails to every single council member many times. I've only received an email response from 2 of the council members.
okay.
And so it is very frustrating to try to understand how you're supposed to communicate with the council.
I don't doubt that at all.
I appreciate your dialogue now very much. Thank you.
I don't doubt that at all. I will tell you that getting a barrage of emails from people from Nebraska and things of that nature, this isn't Global Peace Day. I mean, we're trying to end up solving problems in our own backyard. It'd be nice if most of the direction was from local residents, so.
I do apologize for that. I did not realize that change.org even did that. Out of the 100 signatures that were received, about 60 or 70 of them have been from people directly from South Lyon.
At the very least, they have a South Lyon mailing
Russia and
address.
one from Puerto Rico, I noticed.
Right.
Which, I don't necessarily know if that shouldn't be considered though, because if we could draw a worldwide tourism to Volunteer Park.
If they wanted to help fund what's going on in Volunteer Park, then they get to have their 2 cents worth in it, you know.
David, how
so.
much left is on the bond?
I would have to look into that, but there's a lot of money left on
Well,
the bond.
perhaps somebody would like to write us a check for that amount.
I would
Put
appreciate
that with
that.
the resolution, put the donation for the payment of the bond with that.
I don't understand, are you talking about a bond for the property of Volunteer Park?
Yes.
There's a bond on there.
If something like Nature Conservancy or an outside group was interested in purchasing Volunteer Park, would that be something that you would be willing to consider?
No.
No, it's not for sale.
So why are you concerned about the price of the bond?
It can be a donation.
What's the difference between a donation and a sale?
Well, we have control over it, for one, I mean.
We'd
So
still,
you're saying you
If I
want someone-
donate my house for somebody to live in, or if I
So
sell my house to
I'm
somebody.
sorry, I don't understand politics. So what you're saying is that the bond, you would want a donation so that the city would get it paid but still retain possession of it. That's what you're saying by donation.
The best of all worlds, that would be great. Not very likely.
But that's the point you're trying to make, is that if there was a donation, then you would accept that, pay off the bond and retain the park as a natural area?
Aaron?
No,
I think he just made an off the
I just-
cuff aside,
The
but.
question was about the price of the bond then. Why are you curious about the price of the bond?
Who's gonna pay Bob's DPW guys to go mow the lawn? Somebody's gonna have to put that in a budget to go mow that lawn every month, you do it now, but I mean, it looked like there was a lot more involved. I mean, these things cost money. Things that you're talking about cost money.
We used to mow the bike path all the time.
Right.
To take a tractor that mows, the soccer fields and the surrounding grass of the soccer fields, to mow an extra 1,500 feet would be an exorbitant cost?
Everything costs money.
That would be, percentage-wise, an exorbitant cost.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the rig you'd be using in there, but this weekend is the beautification or cleanup week, so that's going to end up being a big project. I'm going to be there. I'm sure that everybody here is going to end up playing a role, so get your dungarees on and your work gloves and get ready to go.
I work at Ford, and they all have a volunteer group.
Yeah, they're very active.
If I was to organize a volunteer group to come and help clean up, would that be something that the city council would support?
We have church groups and
Absolutely.
so forth, different ones that are already doing that.
Take all comers.
Who would I contact to get that authorized?
City Hall.
We show up
To me or
here,
Lisa,
Thank you.
absolutely.
everybody shows up here Saturday morning, and everyone gets relegated to their
No, I
task.
understand that's the official, but I'm saying just at Ford, they have like a crew of 20 people come out and they independently, I could lead a group of people and we could pick up trash or something.
Right, it'd be beautiful.
You can do that without our sanction. We're okay with that.
Yeah, but at 9 o'clock is when they're trying to meet here by 9 o'clock and then disperse into the different projects. Okay, Aaron?
I'm team entrance signs, correct, Lisa?
And cemetery.
And, well, yeah, cemetery, but all signs. I'm team signs this year. So anybody who, don't laugh, Tim, I expect to see you out there on my team. So I will be beautificating, if that's not even a word, that part of the city. Also, I have a question for you, Tim. What is the responsibility on the city if a child pokes their eye out on one of the stakes that this gentleman put through the park?
I don't know the answer to that. I'd have to look into it.
Can you check into that? Because if those stakes need to be legally removed.
I did write that portion down in my notes to follow up on it.
Thanks.
I'll tell you what, the bike path, the Boy Scouts put that hat channel with little sheet metal signs on them in front of the trees that were substantially more dangerous than what is going on in the park, so.
I just think it's I don't know the answer to that, but he's sitting right there and.
Well, we have his email, so.
Yeah, and I have a responsibility.
I will remove the stakes tomorrow.
I mean, I have a responsibility to ask that question.
I will remove the stakes tomorrow.
I don't know if you have to remove the stakes tomorrow. I just have that responsibility to ask that
I
question.
would do the same thing for my child. I will remove all of the stakes.
Put a tennis ball on the top of
No,
it.
I will remove all of the stakes tomorrow.
Wow, it's tennis ball. Hey, Joe?
No comments, thank you.
What's that?
Harvey?
Sitting down there.
Oh,
This weekend, the American Legion will be selling poppies. Try not to run us over. Thank you.
At least not on purpose.
On purpose.
Mike?
The beautiful thing about our form of government is that when people complain, they come to their local governmental body, and we're in a position to do something about it. We are in a position to at least try to work something out with what's going on with Volunteer Park. My proposal is simple. We have two of the parties involved with this in the room today. It's just a simple matter of maybe arranging something with the Parks and Rec Commission, bringing in Ken, bringing in you, George, bringing in the maps, and sitting down and saying, look, can we work out an area that's acceptable to all parties involved? I mean, this is a situation where we've heard a lot of going back and forth about what's going on, but we have an opportunity here where two of the parties are here. We can have the city, through the Parks and Rec Commission, work as the mediator, sit down. I mean, everybody has the right intentions. This is just an opportunity for us to sit down and try to work it out. So what I would suggest is that we do something soon, set it up, maybe Mr. Murphy can set it up with both of you, and we just sit down and try to work out something that's acceptable to everybody. That's all I have.
you think?
Well done. Okay, Bev? Reiterate the cleanup again on the 18th is Saturday, and any of your groups or individuals can meet right here at City Hall on the 18th at 9 o'clock. Also, before we meet again, we will be having a Memorial Day parade on the 27th, and that's been going on in South Lyon since the 1800s.
I don't know, I probably.
You think you'll go to that one? Oh.
What's that?
Mr. American Legion, you're going to be in the parade?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
One way or
And
another.
that, of course, the parade ends with a great ceremony in the cemetery in honor of all that have sacrificed for us. And I'm going to advertise it. I didn't hear if they're doing it or not, but they've been doing it all those years. They usually have a free hot dog or pizza at the VFW hall after that event is over with.
I understand their organizational meeting is this weekend as well.
Okay. And also note that our city council meeting would have met on the 27th, but we did vote to make it on the Tuesday, the 28th. So we're not blowing off a meeting. We will be here on the Tuesday, the 28th. With that, we got to go to a closed session.
Oh, do we?
Oh, my God.
You want to state
That's
the
gonna
purpose
kill
of
me.
it, Mr. Mayor?
Section 8H of the OMA to discuss a written legal opinion for the city.